All right, we go now to Paul Bullock. He's a senior scholar with the Department of Soil Science at the University of Manitoba, and we're talking about Fusarium head blight. So that seems a bit strange. Paul, welcome here.
Oh, great to be on, Lindsay.
Okay, we're not really talking about Fusarium head blight, the disease, because of course that isn't your area of expertise. We are talking about the weather that can impact Fusarium head blight and about the weather stations we need to make forecasting maps. So, Paul, catch us up. There's a project underway. What is this project? Who's involved?
Okay, so the project is actually a continuation of some work that was done from 2018 through 2023, and the focus of that research project was to identify the weather factors and develop risk algorithms that would help predict when Fusarium head blight would be more or less severe.
Okay.
So that involved plot sites across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, and then we tested the models that we developed from the plots. We tested in farmers' fields, 300 farmer fields, again spread across the three Prairie provinces. And based on that, what we were able to do is come up with disease risk models. There's actually a series of them, and they do different types of things. They look at the risk for what type of Fusarium head blight you would see in the field when the crop is still standing. We were able to do a couple of models for Fusarium damaged kernels in the spring wheat and the durum. And then we were able to do in durum also to develop a risk for high levels of dawn as well. So this looks at spring wheat, at winter wheat, barley, and durum. Those are the four crops, and those are the types of risks that we were able to develop models for in that project. So the other piece of this was that we wanted the knowledge and information that we developed to be available, to be able to be used for management decisions across the prairies. And in order to do that, we contracted help with developing a website, an online mapping tool, and that's it's been developed. It's actually been operational for us to work with in a testing mode now for a couple of years, and we're ready to have this roll out to the public. And so this project that we're talking about right now is meant to roll out across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba to be available publicly, free of charge to anyone who wants to use it. And it's going to actually replace what you find for Fusarium risk maps individually in each province.
Okay.
So Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta have all had Fusarium risk maps in the past. Now, these ran on models that were developed in the United States and were kind of imported here. And what we found is that the models that we developed right here in Western Canada worked more accurately than the ones that were imported, which isn't really a big surprise. We kind of expected that would be the case. Mm-hmm. And so this spring, when people go to, say, Saskatchewan's Fusarium risk map, they'll still find risk information, but it's going to link up to this new tool that we've developed. And so what we need is weather data to feed those risk algorithms, and then the mapping allows people to see, like if you go there on June the 1st, it'll tell you what the risk was up until the previous day in terms of the weather conditions for creating Fusarium.
So, and that's a key part here, is that in order to inform this tool, the forecasting tool, and it be this sort of, almost by the day risk forecasting, you do need to be gathering significant amount of data from multiple points. And that's one of the reasons we're talking today, is that Alberta and Manitoba, for the most part, is covered as far as weather stations, but there's a bit of a gap, pardon the pun, in Saskatchewan as far
Yep.
as these weather stations go. And there's an opportunity potentially, depending on where a farmer is located, that they could have a weather station provided. So tell me about that aspect of this project.
Right. Yeah, that's very important. In Saskatchewan, we just don't have the same number of publicly accessible weather stations. Alberta and Manitoba both have a provincial weather network that is publicly accessible. Saskatchewan has lots of weather stations, but a lot of them are privately held, and so that creates an issue with trying to access those types of data to use in the tool, when it's in private hands. So this is the opportunity. We've got some weather stations. These are Metos or PESSL, PESSL weather stations. We have 25 of them that we're actually distributing free of charge. We're looking for strategic locations where we could set up one of those stations to fill a large gap in the coverage. So that's the one thing. And yes, there's been people have started to contact me about it, and actually some of those stations have actually been allocated to people who are in strategic locations. So we still have more that we need to do, but that was the first piece of it. But also, there are many people that already have a Metos weather station in Saskatchewan. And all they need to do is to provide permission for us to use their data, and we can assimilate that and use it in the model. And what that does is it provides more points on the map where we can calculate that weather-based risk, and then the map itself just has higher spatial resolution. It's a more accurate depiction of where the risk is higher or lower. So that's the other thing. So you can have existing station owners on the Metos network. Metos has something called Ag Data Transparency Certification. They do not share weather data unless they have specific written permission to do so. And so it's just a matter of reaching out to those people who may have a Metos weather station and asking them. They can contact Metos and say, yeah, we'd be quite willing to let this online mapping tool have access to those data, and that adds another point in Saskatchewan.
Okay, so very important then for producers hearing this that may want to see if they would be eligible for a free station. They can get in touch, but those that already have this particular type certainly could allow their information to be used, that weather information to be used to inform this map as well. So definitely a lot of opportunity to participate here. Now, I did want to just quickly note it's quite the collaboration here. We've got the University of Manitoba, SaskWheat, Alberta Grains, the Manitoba Crop Alliance, and all three Prairie Provinces, the governments of all three Prairie Provinces involved in this project and putting this together. So it's quite a feat. And I've got notes here that says the forecasting map, May 15th to August 31st. Is that's when these would be published, or you could access an updated map during that time?
An updated map. That's right. Yeah. So what would happen is that the risk mapping tool, it uses the previous, depending on which model you're talking about, whether it's DAWN or FDK or the Fusarium index in the field. It uses weather data from the previous either 10 days or 14 days. And so on May the 15th, it will use the data from May 1st to the 14th, and it will calculate a risk value at every weather station. So that's why, so we want to ingest the weather data from May 1st to August 31st, and then that provides these risk maps during that period from the 15th through to the end of August. Right. So that's the reason for those dates. And when you bring the tool up, that the first thing it does, it defaults to the current day, if that's what you want. Most people, that's what they're going to want. Yeah. You can go back in time too, but the current day is mostly what they will want. What kind of crop do you have? Is it spring wheat? Is it winter wheat? What are you interested in? What variety? Because they have different Fusarium resistance levels. And then depending, if you select spring wheat, for example, it'll give you a choice. You can either get a Fusarium risk map, what you think it's going to look like in the field, a Fusarium head blight index, or you can get an FDK, what you would expect for risk for Fusarium damaged kernels. So you select all of those things and click, and away it goes. And in the background, all this magic happens with these algorithms that take the weather data at all these stations and creates a map. And you can zoom into that to have a closer look at your area and that sort of thing. It doesn't go to a field level.
Right.
I need to be very clear that this is not going to tell you on the southwest of 23, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be high risk. The grid is 10 by 10 kilometers. So each grid cell, there's an actual risk done for each grid cell, and that's as high as resolution we're going to.
Yeah, still that's pretty good. Realistically, I still think that's quite good. Yeah.
Yeah, like when you're standing back and looking at this on a regional basis, it gives you quite a bit of detail about where the hot spots are and that sort of thing. So it does quite well. I mean, if you're what we want this to do is to say, wow, I'm sitting in an area that's high risk. I better go and have a look at my field because I may need to put on a fungicide. And the thing is, the risk that it's going to pump out, it's calculating the risk up to the time of flowering. This is when Fusarium becomes a problem is right at flowering. If you're going to spray, you have to do that around the time of anthesis to be effective, right? Putting a fungicide on 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later when you can already see the Fusarium showing up, well, it's too late. It's not going to do anything. So that's the main purpose for this, is to help better inform fungicide application as a way to help control the level of Fusarium when the risk is high. And if the risk isn't high, well, then why would you put on a fungicide? It's not going to gain you very much. So that's the whole purpose for this.
And also, I like that it includes that variety choice, because obviously we know there's going to be different risk levels. Most farmers, of course, are going to know that, but it's certainly nice to have that worked into the equation for sure. And the dawn, one thing that I find interesting, of course, is that there is the forecast mapping of that you said in the earlier project that looked at actually dawn development as well, which is of course what Fusarium creates and makes it such a detriment for feed. So super cool. Okay, so Paul, before I let you go, we need to connect people. So of course they can contact me and I can put them in touch. But Paul, if someone wants to know if they can perhaps access one of these stations or wants more information, where can they go to find that out? And then where can they actually access this tool?
Right. And so let's break it down then. So if you're an existing Metos station owner, you send your station ID and contact information and that to sales@metos.ca. And that information would be enough for them to say, okay, we can get permission and we'll get that data added. If they're interested in one of the free stations, I encourage them to have a look. We've listed the locations that we're looking for, these free weather stations. And if they're near one of those locations, then yes, they can contact me. And that's paul.bullock, BULLOCK, @umanitoba.ca.
Okay.
And the people have been contacting me, and as I said, we're starting to allocate these stations. So, but we need more yet. So that'd be great if they would do that. The actual tool itself will be released. We're expecting to release this in May this year. So it's not publicly accessible at this point in time, but we expect it will be accessible to the world in May of 2024.
Okay. It's coming up soon. Month to go.
Yes, it is.
Crunch time.
The push is on. You bet.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Paul. Thank you so much. And of course, anyone out there, if you get in touch with us here at Real Agriculture, we'll connect you as well. So by all means. But Paul, thank you so much for joining me on the show today.
All right. Thanks very much, Lindsay.